All right, amen, amen. So, it's good to see you guys. It makes this a little better when it's virtual and I can see you guys. Okay, amen. All right. So, this is the message on how to excel at leadership. And this is part 2 of the series. So, if you weren't here for part 1, that means you're going to have to get the notes. And I think back in the day when we were in school, we had Cliff Notes. Remember that? We had Cliff Notes. So y'all had to grab some Cliff Notes. All right? If you want to get part 1 of the series. Well, we're talking about on how to excel at leadership. God's example. See, we understand that Jesus was the greatest leader to ever live on this earth. Okay, in the body, right? And he would give us examples of how to lead. And so that's the examples that I'm going through here. His greatest example of how he led was a great leader will give his life for the people that are following him. That's one example. The greatest leader will give his life for the ones that follow him. Okay? And we talked about how in leadership, it's not made just for a man. It's also made for a woman as well. Okay? In fact, in the beginning, in Adam and Eve, God made them both. He told them both have dominion over the earth. He didn't say the man to have dominion over the wife. He said you both have dominion over the earth. So you're supposed to work as a team. Okay? That's what y'all supposed to do. And that goes out to the married couples out there. You're supposed to work as a team. Okay, that's how that works. But we're talking about how to excel at leadership. Okay, so we all know what leader means. We got that down. We all know what a leader is. So to recap what we talked about in the first part of how to be excel at leadership, we had altogether we had 10 points. We went through the first 6 in the first part. So I'll give you a little clip notes on the first part. The first quality of excelling at a great leadership is humility. That's the first one. Humility. Everybody knows what humility means, right? But also some biblical references to humility. You can look up Luke 14, verse 11. You can look up Proverbs 1 and 7 or 24 and 4. And you can also look up Proverbs 11 and 2. Because see, Jesus, when he went to the cross, he had to humble himself, right? Because here he is God, and he had to humble himself just so the purpose could be fulfilled. So sometime in leadership, I'm going to say a majority of the time in leadership, you got to humble yourself if you want to excel. Because just because you the leader, or you own your own business, or you're the leader of a club, or whatever it is that you do, doesn't mean that you don't humble yourself. You need to humble yourself. Because people don't want to follow a leader who's not humble. At least not a good leader anyway. They'll follow you because they have to. But the first chance they get a chance to roll out on you, guess what? They're gone. Am I right? Amen? They're gone. As soon as when they find a better leader, they're gone. They're leaving you. Right? Because they're going to get frustrated. Okay, so the second part to being a great leader and excelling at leadership is having patience, right? The second one was patience. And that's found in Ecclesiastes 7 and 8. And also having patience is better than pride, and that's also biblical as well. And then the third one was long suffering. Long suffering. And a lot of people don't know what long suffering means. So long suffering doesn't mean you just sit there and deal with it, and that's it. Long suffering actually means that when you get angry, you have to restrain yourself from saying something nasty to somebody else. Okay? So that means in leadership, sometimes you're going to have that come up. Somebody not going to send an email off. Somebody going to do something wrong. And you're going to want to give them the business. Well, you can't do that. If you want to excel and be a great leader, you have to have long suffering. Even though you're angry, you got to restrain yourself. Now, you can look that up in Romans chapter 9, 22 and 23 in the Bible, okay? So long suffering is something you need. Also, another one, number 4, is honesty. Honesty. You know, Jesus shows an example of being honest. He tells nothing but the truth. And if he says he's going to do something, it happens. There's no questions on that. If he says he's going to do something, it's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. Correct? Amen? All right. So, when you lead, you have to make sure when you say something, you follow through with it. You can't just say, oh, yeah, I'm going to, you tell everybody you're going to treat them to lunch. And then for whatever reason, you don't treat them to lunch. That's not a good quality of a great leader. When you say you're going to do something, do it. It's that simple. When you say you're going to do something, do it. Make it happen. Because that's how you build trust. That's why Jesus is the most trusted figure in all of history. Because every time he says he's going to do something, he does it. You can trust him. All right? So that's a great part of leadership there to have. Is honesty and trust, right? The other great value is, as a leader, and Jesus understood this, is that great leaders understand not everyone who follows you is committed. Okay? Just like Judas. Okay? Just because somebody follows you doesn't mean they're committed to what you're trying to build, okay? Or trying to put forward. So as a great leader, and how they say to be a great leader, you got to understand, not everybody's going to follow you all the way to the vision point, to the point of where you're seeing the business go, or see the vision you have for, like, let's say, an organization or whatever it is. They're not going to be able to follow you all the way there because their intentions aren't right. The first chance they get something, somebody come along and say something better in their ear, then there they go. So just like Judas. So you got to understand that you will have somebody usually in your organization or somebody that you're leading that will be like Judas. Unfortunately, you don't want that. But usually there is somebody who's always plotting against you when you're a leader. Understand that one? So Jesus was an example. He understood that, okay, Judas was somebody who was plotting against me. Even when I was trying to give my best, and I was trying to do my best, here comes somebody plotting against you. So in leadership, you're going to have people that are going to plot against you. Even though you're doing the best, you're treating them great, you're doing everything you can do. But somebody in the background always hate. That's what happens. Because they're not leading, right? So unfortunately, Judas, he sold out for some money, right? And that's usually why people sell out. You may have somebody following you, they may sell out for some money or something like that. But Jesus shows us that example, right? He shows us that example of leadership. He still kept leading, even though he knew the person was going to betray him. In Judas, he still led the disciples, right? But he knew that Judas was going to betray him. But he still treated Judas the same. He didn't treat him differently. And he still had to lead, okay? So remember that when you're trying to excel in leadership, you're going to have people that are going to be in the background, that are following you, that maybe somebody is going to betray you, and they're going to do things they shouldn't be doing. Right? That's just how it happens, okay? God showed us that. Jesus showed us that, right? Okay. Also, in the Bible, in Great Leader, Jesus also showed us that you have to prune things. So that means sometimes you have people that are following you that are not doing enough or holding their part up of the bargain. You got to prune them off so that new growth can happen with other people, or more time can be evaluated with other people, and more fruit can be bared. So Jesus showed that example. Sometimes you got to prune stuff off. So being a great leader and going to the next level of leadership, you have to prune your followers sometimes, right? Amen. Okay, and number 6 on the recap is the 6th point was compassion. Okay, so I'm going to start with something a little nice there. You see, compassion. So in compassion, we have to have empathy for people, right? Because people go through hard times, if we're being real, right? People are going through hard times, and so you have to have compassion. Even though you may think they lying or you're not telling the truth, you still got to have compassion, and Jesus showed us that. Everybody doesn't know how to communicate properly, right? And sometimes people don't communicate, or for whatever reason, they're just not available emotionally or mentally. So you have to show compassion so that these people can understand that you still love them, and you're still proud of them. You can still, they can still do the right things that they need to do. And that's a recap of part 1 of leadership, okay? Of excelling at leadership. But this is part 2, so I want to move on. Amen? Can we say move on out there? Move on.
Amen and move on.
Amen and move on. Okay, so we're going to move on. Move on to part 2. Amen? That's what we're going to do. All right. So we got only 4 more points for part 2 on how to excel at leadership. But we're going to move on. Amen? All right. You paying attention, Moses? Because we got little kids here too. Pay attention, Moses? I need you to pay attention. Thank you. And I need you to stop touching stuff. Amen. All right. So the next one is point 7 of the 10 points for how to excel at leadership is to set boundaries. Say it with me. Set boundaries. Amen, Moses. Set boundaries. That's what you have to do to excel at leadership. Okay, because a lot of time when you're a leader, you realize I got a lot that needs to get done. And you don't want to delegate because you're like, man, if I don't do it, it ain't going to get done. Or people ain't going to do right by it. Right? And so a lot of times you find yourself in leadership not setting boundaries because you don't want stuff to fall to the wayside. And this is even a work that God had to do with me, because you have to set some boundaries. And what am I talking about when I say set boundaries? I'm talking about set boundaries on your mental health, okay, and also your physical health. And in biblical, you can see that Jesus did it. Luke 22, 39 through 44. You can see what he did, okay? So, again, Jesus set boundaries, Remember when he was getting ready to go to Calvary? He set a boundary real quick. And he said, I'm going to go pray off to myself, and I need to get away from you guys for a minute, the disciples. And he just had to set some boundaries. Jesus has done it all throughout the Word, but he has set boundaries with his disciples in a lot of different ways. Okay, and he also took care of his physical health. When he said, I need to go lay down, he laid down, he went to sleep. So sometimes you guys got to go to sleep. Can't stay up worried about the business or worry about whatever you got. You got to go lay down and take a nap. That's my favorite time. You can ask my wife, you can ask my son. I take a nap every day, okay? Yeah, nap. I take a nap every day. I don't play. Because I understand that that's part of what they call these days self-care, but that's how you set boundaries, right? I tell everybody, look, when I take a nap, don't bother me because guess what? I ain't going to answer you. But when I wake up, I'll deal with you. So taking a nap, that's one of the boundaries I set for myself. Amen? All right. So I hope you guys got that because that's very important, setting boundaries to excel as a leader. You got to do it. Okay. Number 8. Okay. Is stewardship. How many people know what stewardship means? Number 8 is stewardship. How about you, Melissa? Number 8 is stewardship.
Yes, I know what stewardship is.
Yeah, stewardship. So it's important if you want to excel as a leader, you have to excel in stewardship. Okay? Now, understanding that you can't lead forever. That's not in the purpose, the plans. You can't lead forever. So, you have to train up the next person that's going to be the next leader within your organization. That's important. So the growth will continue. And you'll have to do that if you have good stewardship, right? And the Bible teaches us about that, and Jesus teaches about that. Jesus definitely does that. And he does that by giving people responsibilities. He gave his disciples responsibilities. He said, hey, here is some authority. Jesus gave it to him, okay? And Jesus showed the example because you can read Matthew 10, verses 5 through 8. And he will tell you, he gave the authority to them to heal the sick, to cleanse the lepers, to raise the dead, and to cast out devils. This is what Jesus did. He had great stewardship because he just said, hey, I'm going to give y'all some assignments and some responsibilities so y'all can do things when I'm not here. You understand me? So that's what we got to do if we want to be a great leader. We have to put people in a position to be able to lead when you're not there. Great stewardship, okay? That means give them responsibility so they can learn and they can move in a leadership capacity without actually being a leader. Okay? So that's what we got to do if we want to excel to be a great leader. Because you should be training the next person to take over. That's what should be happening. You know? Amen? Amen. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our 9th point. We got 2 more points. Hang on there with me. We're almost done with this part 2 of how to excel being a leader. We have 2 more points, and then we're done. Okay? So point number 9. Give me 1 second.
Wait, how much more points?
Moses, we have 2 more points. 2 more points.
Yay.
Okay? So, number 9 point is, Moses, you say it with me. Encouragement. Encouragement. Get out the way. Encouragement. Sit down, Alex. Thank you. All right. Encouragement. That is number 9. That's what we're called to do. Now, Jesus, he was the great encourager, right? Jesus was a great encourager. And so God has worked with me because, sometimes Pastor Kerry can be a little bit, brutal. So he's working with me to be more encouraging. And sometimes I'm very brutal, if I'm being transparent. And because I'm human too, y'all. But encouragement is what Jesus calls us to be. So you can look at Thessalonians chapter 5, 11 through 24. And God will show you that about encouragement. You can also look at Hebrews 3 and 13. Okay? Because he constantly encouraged his disciples or his followers. And so how many people know that your followers, if you're a leader, you have followers, correct? Amen? So if you're a leader, you have followers. So that's why we can use these examples out the Bible, okay? So here Jesus is encouraging his disciples, okay? And that's what we are called to do as a great leader. You have to encourage people. This is not an easy thing. Leaders are not born, they are developed, okay? Because leadership is not easy. If anybody told you leadership is easy, they've never been a leader. To be a leader is not easy at all. In fact, I would say it's one of the most difficult things you ever have to do in your life. Because you got to do things when other people won't do it. You got to step up and get it done. You see? You can't just say, just let it fall by the wayside. No. You got to step up and get it done. And Jesus shows us that. In his life. There were plenty of times Jesus could have just said, in fact, when he was going to die on Calvary for us, he could have just said, you know what, God, I know it's your will that I go die for everybody's sins. But you know what? I'm just going to quit right here at the finish line. I'm going to quit. I'm tired. I don't want to deal with this. It's too much for me to handle. It's a lot. Come on, in my humanity, I'm sweating. I'm having anxiety. I'm sweating blood. I am done. I can't do this no more. But as a leader, guess what he had to do? He had to keep going despite how he felt. Okay? So that's what we got to do to be a great leader on the next level. We have to keep going despite our feelings. Because our feelings will do nothing but keep us down. Our feelings will keep us broke. Our feelings will keep us messed up. Okay? If you sit in your feelings long enough, they will definitely lead you to do something that you probably would never do if you knew what the outcome was going to be, you know? Of something good. So your feelings can be your downfall. So you got to understand that encouragement is very important because Jesus encouraged his disciples, so we should encourage our followers, being leaders. So to be a great leader, you have to encourage your staff. You got to encourage your leadership that's along with you, especially if you're the top leader. You got to encourage your leaders right next to you, because this is part of being also the good stewardship. Amen? Okay. So, in saying that, we are at our last point. Our last point is going to be number 10. Number 10. Number 10. And remember, we're talking about, what are we talking about, Moses? Let's see if I can quiz him real quick. What are we talking about, Moses? I know you don't know. We're talking about how to excel at leadership.
That's what I was about to say.
And part 2. It's part 2. This is the last point. This is number 10. All right, number 10. We finally made it. Amen. Say we finally made it.
We finally made it.
Go ahead out there. We finally made it.
We finally made it.
All right. So, number 10. This is the 10th point, and the final point is accountability. Say accountability with me. Accountability. Amen. I want to hear everybody on that first word say accountability. Accountability. We're coming to the finish line. Accountability. Okay, so if you want to excel at being a leader and God to call you to the next level of leadership, you have to be accountable. Okay? No, not just the staff, but the leader. The leader has to be accountable. Okay, that's what we're talking about here. As a leader, to excel to a next level, you can't be saying, oh, I expect you to be at work, and then I don't show up. You can't do that. You have to be accountable as well, okay? So accountability. You have to be accountable, just like Jesus. He showed another great example here of accountability. And if you remember or recall, Jesus, he was accountable to who? Who was Jesus accountable to? The Father. Okay. Jesus was accountable to the Father. So, if we realize that example, Jesus showed us that we have to be accountable to somebody, right? That's the only way that we can truly succeed and go to another level and be the best and excel at what we're trying to do. So Jesus was accountable to the Father. And in fact, he even said this. He said, you know, we don't, Father, remember he was going through Calvary, and he said, God, can you take this cup from me? You know, can you take this pain, because I know what I'm about to go through. Can you take this away from me? Right? But he was accountable to the Father, right? Even being a great leader, he was still accountable to the Father. And so when we run things as a leadership, we have to be accountable to all people, not just your staff, not just, also your customers or whoever you have, your organization. You need to be accountable to everybody, just like Jesus was accountable to the Father. Okay? All right. Amen? All right. So, with that, we're going to close on the series of how to excel at leadership. How to excel at leadership, part 2. Amen? All right. All right. And so thank you. Amen.